Trita, thank you for doing this. I can't even imagine. You told me a little bit
Thank you.
offline what your schedule is these days, and I appreciate you, carving out a little bit of window for me. So I
Oh,
was
my pleasure.
I
My
was
pleasure.
watching you with Mario, and I asked you, I'm like, right before we got on, and let me date timestamp this really quick. It's 1:15 p.m. Pacific time. Today is June 26th, and I'm watching you with Mario, and I said, when did this go up? And you said, well, we recorded like an hour ago. So I mean, just one after another with you, huh?
Yeah, on many days. Sometimes it's a little bit less hectic, but today is has been one of those days.
So, I want to share what we just talked about briefly, because I can't even imagine, like Larry Johnson's doing upwards of 6 interviews a day. What is your schedule? What was it like at the beginning when this conflict started? And what is it like now?
So in the beginning, it was extremely intense. And from our standpoint at the Quincy Institute, because we were so skeptical about this war, we knew that there would be this massive effort to create consent in the American public in favor of this war, that the mainstream media would not bring on enough diversity of views, so that we would have to just be as aggressive as possible in booking interviews and reaching folks in various ways, whether it's through the alternative media, podcasts, or mainstream media. We do all of them. Um, but it was important because we wanted to make sure that we did not end up in a scenario in which the public was tricked into believing that this is good, and then it would take a long, long time before they would come to the realization how problematic this war was. We saw that in the Iraq War, in which the support for the Iraq War was very strong at the very beginning. It took about 2 years before it started to turn. And that was, of course, because of the Bush administration had spent a year and a half selling the war. Trump had not done this, and it's partly because Trump thought that the war would only take 4 days. And as a result, there was no need to sell it because by the time people would start really digging deep, the war would be over and it would be fine. It was a complete miscalculation. And we see that, not only did the war not end in 4 days, it's not even ending quite yet. There's a ceasefire, there's a deal, but it's not over with. And it certainly didn't bring about the results that he thought it would bring about. And in many ways, the population started to become skeptical of the war. They were having a skeptical disposition towards it from the outset, but it was important to really move the public even further in that direction as part of the way of getting the White House to wake up and make them recognize that they really do have to put an end to this.
Well, and it's funny. The other thing I was watching this morning is I'm balancing. One of Trump's his social media top advisor was just on Tucker. I don't know if you had a chance to tune into any of that. It
I
just
didn't
went
see
up a
that
couple
now.
hours ago. Alex Brusowitz.
Okay.
And I didn't get a chance to finish it. I got like 2/3 through it. It's an hour and 50 minutes. So I'm about 50 minutes in, so not quite 2/3. But he was talking about the war, and he was saying, the nuclear weapon, nuclear weapon, nuclear weapon, and Trita, I've heard this. I mean, I'm 48 years old. I've been hearing this for over 20 years, and the question that I've asked in relation to all of this is, how do I, as an American citizen, benefit from this? But yet, I get criticized for not knowing geopolitics because I'm asking this question. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I don't see any benefits at all. I think this war was illegal, unnecessary, strategically a massive blunder. I would say that it goes beyond the repercussions of the Iraq War. The Iraq War was illegal, but it was won militarily within 3 weeks. There's no doubt about that. The United States military crushed the Iraqi military. Also, the political objective was achieved because Saddam Hussein was overthrown. Now, everything else afterwards was much of a failure because the country could not be stabilized. It became a growing ground for radicalism. It gave birth to ISIS and all of these other secondary effects of that war. But the military and political aspect initially was successful. Here you have a completely different scenario. The United States did not win this militarily. In fact, it was handed a strategic defeat. The Iranians took control over the Strait of Hormuz very quickly. They weaponized geography. They were the ones who were determining the geography of the war. And the political objective of overthrowing the government was also not achieved.